Hey guys, welcome back to the Thriving in Love podcast, the podcast that challenges the status quo so couples can thrive as their most authentic selves. I'm your host, Sana, and today I have a very special guest, Julianna Johnson. We met at Founders Table and we were sitting next to each other, and Juliana's wedding was coming up. So obviously we talked all about her love story, and it is a really good one, guys. Like, this woman has been in the healing world, somatic healing, all the things, really removing all of the energetic blocks that were stopping her from attracting the perfect partner for her. So I really wanted to have her on the show to dive into what that work actually looks like and how it manifests in the real world, and how prayer and manifestation are really just the same thing, and all of the juicy stuff about love, spirituality, and self growth. Julianna, welcome. Founder of Digital Darlings, which I'm obsessed with. You have so much juicy stuff happening in your professional world. So please fill us in on what's going on for anybody that's curious.
Yeah, thank you, Sana. So when we met, Digital Darlings was just starting to launch, and now we're launched. And it is an online community for women who are ready to learn technology, but know that technology does not need to fit the mold of a tech bro. So instead of being a tech bro, they are a digital darling. So it's really about learning at their own pace, being taught in a way that makes sense, being surrounded by other female founders, and saying, I can change my life with technology and I don't have to do it the way that big tech is telling me to.
Yeah. And I love it so much too, because whenever I'm watching your content, it's like, it's not just how to do it in the anti-bro way, but how to do it with intention and with soul. Like, it's so much deeper than just like the way you're like sharing it. It's like, oh, we're doing it in the feminine way, but also with like, what is the feminine way, right? What is the matriarchy? Where are we heading into as a society? Why do we need to dismantle the patriarchy and create a new world? Because the men are destroying our planet, not all men, obviously. Not our men. Our men are great.
It's really looking at it as the slogan is technology is self-care. And it's really looking at how we can utilize technology to be better to ourselves and to let ourselves heal. And I think that is, when I think of the feminine way, it is being in our bodies and calming that nervous system and having the time to literally just sit on your porch, your balcony, your car, the park bench, and look up at the sky, hear the birds chirp, and go, oh, this is what life is about. And it just so happens that in this day and age, in order to get that life, embracing technology is one of the ways to do that.
And how do we do it in a way that is good for our planet, so that, we're not just thinking about productivity, but also sustainability? Amazing. Well, thank you for the work that you do, but I'm excited to dive into how you came to this incredible marriage. First of all, marriage to, what is this, 3 months in?
Yeah, we are just shy of, what is July? 2 months. We were just shy of 2 months.
Oh, I jumped the gun over there. Okay, 2 months. How has the first 2 months of marriage been for you? Has it been what you were expecting? Are there any surprises? Has it been the same as dating?
Yeah, I will say that it has been so boring, and I love that.
Yes.
And part of that is, I think, because if you live with your partner, if you're building a life with them before you get married, a lot of the things that or the excitement about, oh my gosh, we're married, you've already had, which is fine. But I'm so excited that it is boring, because I think that it just proves that you're with the right person, and their head, like their mindset was the same when you were dating, when you were engaged, as they are married. And I mean that for the better, not the like, oh, I'm now gonna have to act different, or they were acting more relaxed. No. Like, while we were dating, while we were courting, that level of care, that level of commitment was there as they were being married. So you were like, oh, I was literally dating my husband.
I love that because I've seen the opposite so many times where people are rushing to get married. And then as soon as they're married, a lot of that conditioning comes to the surface because they didn't do the prior inner work of dismantling all the things that they picked up over the years of what a marriage looks like and it doesn't look like, and what is authentic to them. So, like, I know we talked about this before, but please share with us what that journey looked like and talk to me about like what your past relationships looked like and how you knew that this one was going to be different, that allowed you to have the capacity to go deeper into that dismantling work.
Yeah. So I guess we can start at the past to
Yeah.
understand. So my past relationships, I don't want to say weren't deep, but they weren't very long. And
Mm.
I was someone who always wants to go deep. So I'm very much, I joke and I say I'm actually an introvert because being in a big room and not knowing my place bothers me because I want to be able to go up to someone and get deep. So meeting you is actually perfect timing because the way the table was configured, I was the only person free to talk to. So I was like, this is great.
And thank God you were sitting with someone who also loves to go deep because we went deep.
Yeah, we're going, this is perfect. This is perfect. So for me, relationships were always about going deep. It was always about being vulnerable. It was always about wanting to build with someone. And my past relationships, or the people I was really interested in, I was not able to do that with them. And I mean, going through the gamut of them, I had the really good friend's brother who wanted to date in secret. I had the person who, after, maybe a month of dating, I realized he was a high functioning alcoholic. I had the person who, we call it the Peter Pan syndrome, who never wanted to grow up, was afraid of commitment. And even the person that I dated and I thought I was going to marry right before meeting my husband was someone who, one, I figured out for the majority of our relationship was cheating on me with one night stands, but also avoided having deep conversations with me. So when I approached things like marriage or, the best thing I'll say is when you have friends getting married or you have things going through certain things, whether they're happy or bad things, it opens up a route to discuss in your relationship. And him not wanting to go down those hypothetical routes. Like, what happens if we couldn't have kids? Would you be okay with that? What does that look like? And really deflecting on those. So when I finally met Trevor, knowing what I didn't like and knowing those past situations was so key and so pivotal. So when you asked me how's married life, and I was like, boring, and I love it. It's because when you go through relationships
That
where
are so chaotic.
so chaotic, you finally go, this is not what I want. I have this, I like to say to people, dating the person before I met my husband, I go, it's like being on a sailboat. And if you've ever been sailing, you know how fun it is when the wind picks up and you start carving through that water. But one, when there's no wind, being on a sailboat isn't great. You're just like motoring along and you're not really enjoying this. Or two, when there's a storm, the last thing I want to be on is a 20-foot sailboat versus being with my husband felt like a luxury yacht.
I freaking love that. Who does not want to be on a freaking luxury yacht? Like,
And you're
yes,
just,
what an
and it's
upgrade.
literally, yeah, and but you're also like, this has
Coasting,
everything I
cruising.
need. We're
Yes.
coasting, we're cruising, we're
All of
we're
your
going.
needs are being met and then some.
Yeah, and it's not a roller coaster. It's not a rush. It's not this excelling in this adrenaline. But you're like, I'm on a freaking luxury yacht.
It feels good to the body.
It feels great to the body.
Amazing. Well, what do you feel like you did in between those relationships to stop calling in these chaotic dynamics and really attract a steady luxury
Yeah.
yacht?
So it happens in stages. And I think this is really important. I think that if you are someone who will use numbers, if you have dated 6 guys and the 6 guys have the pattern, to break that pattern and like number 7 be the one, I think that you have to put in so much work. Not that it can't happen, but you have to put in so much work. For me, my pattern was date a couple, realize the pattern, break that specific pattern, date a couple more people. So now maybe you're going like guy number 7, realize there's another pattern, do some more work, right? So you're going through these different patterns. So I think first was, I first started off in the I'm not going to get angry stage anytime a guy broke up with me. And I was honest, also, the majority of them, like 90% of them, I was the one who got broken up with. So I think that,
rude.
Like how rude is that? So I think that, and I was like, I'm never going to get angry.
But do you think it's because the universe was protecting you because it knew that you wouldn't be the one to leave, so it had to do that to get you into alignment with what was meant for you?
Absolutely. I think that's part of it. And I also think that I was very late in terms of conventional dating, actually starting to date. I don't think my first date was until like first official like date with someone was until I was 19. I think that plays a big part in going into a relationship, being very level-headed. So I think that part of it is I was going in and I was
Also,
very
like,
level-headed.
Why was that the case? Why 19? Like what? Like you weren't
Yeah.
allowed to date in high school, or?
So that was part of it.
Okay.
My mom was very much like no dating till you're 18, which I thought was really stupid and silly. But I also went to an all girls school.
Oh.
And I think that had a huge impact in it, where I was a really good kid. I was so involved in sports and theater and after school activities that I think that even if I was in a co-ed school, maybe I would have secretly dated, but I probably would have picked a really good guy that my parents would have been like, fine. Being in an all-girls school, the guys that I was friends with were all people in my theater group. And I really wasn't attracted to any of them. Yeah. So I never, and then when someone liked me, I was kind of like, oh, my parents told me I can't date. So I think that was it. I think my mindset also was very much like, you're going to take me out, we're 15 and you're going to take me out on a date with what money? You're 15. What is this lifestyle? What is this lifestyle you're going to provide for me? Who's paying for our movie? Your mom and dad? And like that to me was very turn off. Which coincidentally, spoiler alert, I always dated older guys because of that, because I found a man who could take care of me very attractive. And you're like, I'm 20. Yeah, I'm 20. And with my husband, he's 5 years younger than me. So talk about the pattern breaking.
Wait, I'm so curious. Did you ever have that with Trevor where you were like, you're 5 years younger, what can you provide for me? Or any dads like that at all?
So the moment I found out he was 5 years younger than me, we were at like a dance. We liked a social dance. So we were Lindy hopping, right? An East Coast swing dance. We met speed dating. It was our second date after speed dating. And I had my friends there, and I like found out he was 5 years younger than me. And I had like I don't want to say like a visible freak out. Yeah. But I was like, oh, I'm going to go dance with my friend. And this friend, Kirk, he's in his 50s and he has 2 or 3 adult kids. And I was like, Kirk, I don't know about this. And he's like, well, what's the age difference between you and your ex? And I was like, he was 6 years older. He's like, why is this different? And I thought about it. And so he was 20. So he's 30 now. So I guess he was 28 when I met him, maybe. And I was like, okay, he's at the point where like he's on his own health insurance. Like he has a bank account. He's not living off mom and dad. So it probably was the youngest that I would date someone like 27, 28, where I was like, okay, you have your crap together. You have your life together where you can take care of me.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah, but going back to like the different things that hit me. Yes. So I think first it was like that first stage of the realization of like, why do I keep putting myself through these relationships? And you start realizing you have that savior complex. You have that like, and here's why. This took me a number of years. This probably took me a solid like 6-7 years. I realized that it's like the little prince with the rose. So in the Little Prince, when he realizes that the rose is like any other rose, and it's like, but this was my rose. If I could be with a guy who I was able to help or fix, I would be special to him. And if I was special to him, then he could no longer deny that and would just be obsessed and in love with me. Because why wouldn't you be obsessed?
Bad boy.
Because why wouldn't you be fully indebted and in love and want to be with the woman who is the person who, you know, changed your life? Kind of like Macaulay Culkin and Brenda Song. How Macaulay Culkin talks about Brenda Song. I know that Macaulay Culkin met Brenda Song while they were filming a movie in Thailand, maybe.
Was he like
on drugs? You'll have to look at them. I don't know if he was on drugs unwell, but like at this time, I think Macaulay Culkin was really like, even though he was going to be in this movie, like a lot of tabloid stuff around him. And then he met Brenda Song and he just like fell in love with Brenda Song and they had kids and now he's this upstanding father. So all this like that's the type of dynamic that I thought I wanted.
I mean, it's the fairy tale that we've all been sold to. I mean, like Beauty and the Beast and like, you know, all of those stories where it's like the struggling artist and, you know, the one that saves him from himself. Like the Jesus complex for sure too.
Yeah. And part of this actually came from I started working with an empath. So I remember like we name everything like by the years of who the heartbreak was. And I was like, his name's John. And I was like, John, like thinking back when I started working with you, this is when all of this, you know, all these realizations started happening because our work over it's been over a decade, I think at this point, all the work over this decade, where it started from was really that first it was obviously the immediate feeling of what I had, but also clearing out other people's energy.
Yes.
So
important.
I was living at home. So I was living with my parents. You know, I was very close to, you know, our neighbors were my family. I think at times my older brother was popping in back and forth to like live at home before he'd go move away for a new assignment for work. So there was all this energy that one I was picking up from other people and then the stored energy. So like realizing like, oh, I kept picking these guys that I could fix because when I was a kid and I was in school, you know, and I was bullied or I was picked on or I was trying to fit in, the one thing was like, be the good kid, be the one to fix everything, don't cause the problems. So like you never want to be the one to cause the problems in the relationship. You were always going to hold it together. So I think that was a really pivotal one.
You learned self-abandonment, fix others.
Yep, exactly.
And that became your pattern in relationships.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And then I really do think that in your life, you're going to have a test. And this is something that when I think about where I am in work, where I am in life, you always have the test. And one of the tests came with this guy that I said we were dating for about a month and like fireworks, attraction, like this is, you know, all the things. And then he found out he was an alcoholic in a traumatic way, by the way. We went to Disney World for the weekend. We were living in Florida. So we were like 2 hours-ish away, maybe from Orlando. And I was staying at my parents' house. This was COVID. So we'll have to circle back and talk about like the isolation of COVID. And I just hadn't picked up that he was an alcoholic because you're going out on dates and you're having drinks. And the one thing I do want to stress is that it is so normal it is like okay, and it can be very healthy for you to go out to dinner and have a drink. It is totally okay to like be like, I'm going to have a glass of wine at dinner when you're cooking at home. What I came to realize in the past was he would meet me for our dates and he would be several drinks in, but he was a high functioning alcoholic, so he didn't realize it. Then he would be at dinner and he would have 3, 4, or 5 drinks. And again, you're like, we're dating, we're having fun, this is what's happening. But then again, he would have drinks before he would meet me to go play mini golf, and I didn't realize it. So we were in Disney World and we were drinking around the world. We get back to our hotel, and he ends up becoming verbally abusive. And after our first date, I Googled him, and I found this newspaper article that said that several years prior, maybe like 6, 7, 8 years prior, an ex-girlfriend of his brought charges against him for strangling her. And
Shit.
yes, and his side of the story was that he was an elite hockey player. He was trying to get drafted into the NHL.
She was trying to defame his character.
She was trying to defame. He goes, once I got the call because he had too many concussions, or he got his last concussion, that he was no longer eligible for the NHL, she like dropped all charges. In my head, I'm like, this is serious. I need to get out. And I remember being in, like, we had a suite. I had the doors locked. There was 2 doors, like from the bathroom, from the living room. But like in between the bathroom, living room were like these accordion doors from the bathtub. Anyone who's ever stayed in like a Disney, anyone who's ever stayed in like a Disney timeshare suite knows exactly what I'm talking about, especially the older ones. And I thought, okay, he is like 6'5", maybe, former hockey player. I'm not a tiny person, but like I can't take him. Like I had brothers, cousins, we would wrestle, like, but I if he wants to do harm, like he can really harm me. And then I thought also, like, there were at this point, because I was 29, girls that I had met in my life who were younger, like 22, 23. And I said, if I stay with this, what is the example I'm setting for them? So I grabbed my, I put all my stuff in a bag, like put my sneakers on. I'm texting my best friend. I'm like, hey, I'm going to put you in my pocket. You're going to be on, like, mute yourself. You're going to listen in the whole thing. And I just bolted out of that room. And then I like had to find an Uber cab to take me back, and I cried for 2 hours. And,
of course. Oh my gosh.
But again, like that is one of those moments that had I not done that inner work, I would have been like, well, I can fix him. I could be enough. But
you knew you deserved better.
But this was October 2020. And April 2020, 6 months prior, I went down to Florida because I was in New York with my parents. And I said, I'm the only one working here. Peace out. And they had a house in Florida. And I spent 6 months just in my own energy. And at least 3 of those months really not having any human contact, and just being able to go for runs in the morning, go for swims whenever I wanted to, eat the food that I wanted to. And
you literally shifted your energetic frequency during that time.
Yeah. And I was very lucky that I didn't lose my job, and my parents had this home and they weren't telling me to pay rent, and I didn't have a car to worry about. So I was in this, while the world was burning down, I was in this very comfortable position where all I had was to clock into my job and then focus on myself.
Your energy work. Yeah.
Yeah. And remember, this was the first time that I had also been living by myself. I had a roommate in college. We were living on 77th Street in Lex, great apartment. While, my roommate had a boyfriend and we were fine with all this dating, it was the first time as an adult where I had money and I could date and I had autonomy to do what I wanted.
Which is so important before getting married, first of all, is finding that sense of self so deeply, meeting yourself so fully, knowing who you are, knowing what you want, knowing what you don't want, knowing what you'll tolerate and what you won't, which is how you stopped that pattern of wanting to find the bad boy that you can fix, because you stopped running from your own self, inner work, like you mentioned, and sat with yourself, healed yourself so deeply,
Mm-hmm.
honest, not just like from your mindset, but like somatically, energetically, on a cellular level, with nature, in your own energy, cleared your channel from
Yeah.
all the muck.
And that incident, it what started me on my next, like, oh, I am the prize
Yes.
mentality. So
Yes.
then that next April, I ended up buying a condo in Florida because I was going to stay. And I
Damn,
was
girl.
just, again, totally, when we talk about what space does with you and the energy of this space, I walked into this condo, corner unit, gorgeous light,
Mm.
could decorate it the way that I wanted to, like kept the space is clean, the
Yeah.
artwork, very feminine artwork. I kept in my bedroom. I wanted the emotions to feel like sunset, like just very in tune with calling in this life I wanted. So for a solid almost year, I was like, oh, you want to, okay, like if you want to go out with me, like this is what's happening.
You set the standards now.
I set the standards. So about a year after that, I then met my ex before I met my husband, and I was working in West Texas, so the oil field. And this was supposed to be a very casual relationship. I said, there's nothing to do here while I'm flying back and forth. So I'm going to get on a dating app and I'm just going to meet someone new every night and they're going to take me to dinner. It doesn't matter that I can
Love
expense
this.
dinner. I'm like, what am I going to do? And the first night there, I meet him and I said, you know what? Like, I don't hate him. And this sounds like a town that there's probably some murderers here. So it's like, let's just call it a day.
This is good. This is great.
This is good. This is great. So it was like very casual. There was something about this relationship that some of the old habits started creeping in.
Because it's time for
So
integration.
maybe like a month into dating, because the way that it worked is he would work 2 weeks, be off 1 week. He was like, oh, I'll come to Florida with you. I said, that's fine. And we were on the plane from Texas to, I think we were in the taxi cab to the airport. I looked over and I saw him texting on Snapchat. And I was like, this is really weird. And I asked him about
Who
it.
uses Snapchat anymore?
Right.
What?
And I saw him texting, and then we got to my apartment, or I might have said something. I think I said something to him on the plane where I basically was like, do not be rude. Like, I don't care if you're talking to other girls because we are not in a serious relationship, but do not disrespect me like that, where you're coming to my home and spending the weekend with me.
Boundaries.
Right. So you're setting the boundaries, and great weekend, fun weekend. We had gone down to the Keys. My time in West Texas is up. By this point, he is my boyfriend. I'm pretty sure, like we said, I love you. I went to his family's place in Montana. 6 months in, like I'm going to his sister's wedding. During this time, we had this talk about marriage. So I was like, okay, this is happening. This is moving. And my body I just started gaining weight, which I have an autoimmune disease. So like there was partner related stress and I wouldn't let my mind think about it. But a little less than a year and a half, August. So we started dating in April, a year had gone by. Now it was August. We were at a friend's cabin, a bunch of us. And I woke up the next day and I said, I just had a dream where you cheated on me. And he goes, what? And I said, and the thing I did, I said, and I just want to let you know, I didn't get angry. I just told your family. And I said, and if it ever happens, like that's what's going to happen. So like he kind of laughs it off. 3 weeks after that, we go on this trip to Ireland and then things got bad. And I didn't understand why things got bad. I mean, part of it was I was working, so I was contracting for this big company. But like now being with a partner who I'll be like, hey, honey, I know we want to do this thing. Like, we could go to Rome in April, and this was a true story. And I was like, but for a couple hours, I'm going to have to work. But like, let me work for these 4 hours and it pays for my trip. Things just fell through. And then like the couple of weeks
working, it fell through.
I thought that was it. That was it. I took the guilt on me and I thought I wasn't being a good partner and all these things. And again, like my body was just not great. I would say we got back from Ireland a couple of weeks later. He stayed with me in Florida. Oh, at this point, I also rented my condo because we were supposed to move in together in Texas, and he was dragging his heels on this. And
you gave up your sanctuary.
Yeah, I gave up the sanctuary, but that process happened so quick, and there's a reason for that. There's the way that like it got rented so quickly.
First of all, how could it not? The energy was probably fire.
Also two guys who were just like friends ended up renting it. And I was like, all right, cool. Fast forward, he was going out with guys from work because he was like, there's new management. And the thing about West Texas is it's very, very dangerous. Like lots of car accidents because either people, like you have oil tankers, you have people who are working 12-hour shifts and then driving back and forth. The roads, like West Texas is very dangerous just in driving your cars, let alone like potential fracking and oil related accidents. So I don't hear from him. Like he's texting me, I don't hear from him. And now I'm freaking out. Oh my God, did he die in a car accident? I'm calling hospitals. I'm trying to look up online. In the morning, he doesn't wake me up. I'm like, this is not like him. I'm trying to like email his work email. Maybe he'd see this at work. I call his mom and sister. I'm like, have you heard from him? He finally calls me back. And he's like, I forgot my phone in this person's car, this truck. They're at a different location. Gives me the runaround. Now I'm exhausted. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I hadn't slept all night. I was crying. And I got down on my hands and knees. And I say, God, I don't know what your plan for my life is. But if this is the man for me, if this is who I'm supposed to be with, I need patience and I need strength to get through this season. I said, but if it's not, I need you to end this quickly and with as much mercy as possible.
What a prayer.
Went to sleep. Well, when I thought he was dying, I posted his photo on Are We Dating the Same Person Facebook group. I woke up and I had my evidence. Yeah. So now let's jump forward to Nashville, because I think this is the biggest, when I said like the biggest test of the universe and what did I do?
And you surrendered to God.
Yeah. So I surrendered to God and then I surrendered to my best friend. So once I found out that he was cheating and I had the proof, the first thing I did was I called two of my friends who were like two of the bridesmaids. I had two bridesmaids and a flower girl. The flower girl I met in Nashville. So I called these two girls and I told them. And I told them because I needed them to hold me accountable. Because
honestly, so doing the work that I do, I get to insights into people's greatest shame, and they don't even tell their best friends. They don't tell their parents. They don't tell anybody. I'm like the first person that usually holds this for them. It is so courageous to share what you experienced with these people, because what you just said, they're going to hold me accountable. People don't want to be held accountable. They want to be in the victim seat for as long as possible and feel shitty for themselves. And I think it takes doing that inner work to really know that you deserve better. And then you actually set yourself up in the environment and the container to uphold your own standard. So now you're not just setting standards with these guys, you're setting the standard for yourself. And that is when it really shifts.
Because you recognize your pattern. And I was like, if I didn't tell anyone, I would probably take him back.
Stay. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So my best friend the next day is like, why don't you move to Tennessee?
Women, first of all.
Yeah. She goes, why don't you move to Tennessee? There's a 1-bedroom open in my apartment and you rented your condo. So I called them the next day on Monday, and 2 weeks later, I had my car packed up. I had my cat, because I only had one cat at that time. And I drove 12, 14 hours to a new life in Nashville.
Damn.
And one thing about my ex is he was very, I was making mid six figures in my business, and he was like, save your money, don't do this, don't do that. And I bought everything. I was like, oh, Le Creuset pots, I'll take the set.
So you got to rebuild your sanctuary again.
So, I got to rebuild my sanctuary, and I had a neon light that had a Dolly Parton quote, and I started making sourdough. You better get to living.
So good.
Yeah. She's got a quote that says, you better get to living. And I put that in neon lights on my wall because I was like, this year you have to get to living. You have to come back to life. You have to, because at this point I don't want to say I was a shell of myself, but I was so just like bloated and like my skin, my body, my face, like it wasn't like fat. It was that my body was inflamed. Like I had so much inflammation, cortisol from this relationship. I was like, I want to shop. I want to dance. I want to do all this stuff. So I started hiking. So Tennessee has some amazing hiking. So I spent a lot of time in nature. I spent a lot of time just like crying and praying near a river. And I started baking sourdough.
And I said, when we're on our healing journey.
Yeah. I said, Lord, I prayed for patience when, if this was the relationship for me. And I think one of the things that I really need to work on is patience. And for some reason, I have this thought of sourdough on my mind because you really need to be patient.
Yeah.
When you're making sourdough, which when we talk about the feminine energy, I think looking back now, making sourdough really, really put me in that feminine energy. One, because you're doing something creative, you're doing something nourishing. You're doing something that is stereotypically feminine. And that shifted my vibration and my energy like you wouldn't believe. So during this time, while I'm on this healing journey, my ex, of course, tries to get back with me. So here's what's really interesting when we think about who we are and what we stand for and what our values are. I had to have this moment and this realization of, am I someone who can forgive? Am I a forgiving person? And I had this moment where, before I got on my hands and knees and asked God to end this as mercifully as possible, I hadn't like prayed like that. I don't know if ever in my life. I did 14 years of Catholic school. I made all these things that the Catholics do, but I never really went in this hour of need and pain and desperation and just surrender, being that word of please take this. So I was like, okay, well, God, you brought this out of this. So if this is your will, how can I like, and I don't know what the version of girl math is, but how can I like girl religion this? And I said, okay, in the Christian faith, and especially, Catholicism, we talk about suffering and we talk about growing from this suffering. And you look at Jesus and how Jesus forgave. And I said, maybe I'm supposed to forgive. Maybe I'm supposed to forgive, and this will teach me how to love and deepen my love. And that's what I tried doing. So we started talking again. I was like, let's use this time of Lent, so like 40 days to prepare for Easter. I said, let's use this to not talk, and then we'll talk on 40 days. So I spent this time, and I really it's like, let me prep myself. I really miss him. I really want this. I don't know if I actually called him on day 40 but I was really excited to talk to him. He was totally off guard. Well, side note, there's a website called Cheetah Buster where you could upload the photo, and if they're on Tinder, they can track them, all of this. The 40 days that we were apart, he went to Hawaii. And I knew where his apartment was in West Texas and where the places were. And I was like, it's weird, like different apartments in West Texas. We planned to meet in May. Met in May. Turns out he went to Hawaii with another girl. And I was like, okay, well, I guess, I finding this information out, face is turning red, like I have like trying to hold back tears. And you start going into the old patterns and you're like, no, but I'm going to be this forgiving person. But like, I'm going to be the one that because I forgave him, he's going to love me. It's like test number 2, right? I'm like, we're still going to make this work. And I invite him to come to Nashville in 2 weeks. It's Memorial Day weekend. And he tells me, he goes, I'll think about it. And then he calls me and he goes, I'm just going to stay, work overtime, go into the website. He's not in Texas. He's in a vastly different state. And I have an inkling he's with this girl. So I call him up on the spot and I dog him out about it. And this is the moment that changes everything, because I hung up the phone and I picked up I didn't have a rosary. I didn't have a rosary bead on me, but I wear 2 rings on my fingers. One was my grandmother's, and one I asked her to make me one that is like a rosary ring. So it's got 10. So the rosary is essentially like an Our Father and then 10 Hail Marys. So you have a cross and then like 10 little notches on it. And I started saying this prayer. And then I went to confession the next day, which I hadn't been to confession in 12 years, 13 years. And I mean, that was it. And this rosary in particular, it's you say 54 days, half the days. So 27 of the days you are asking. So you are praying and saying like, this is what I want. And then the last 27, you give thanks. So thank you for this prayer. And most people don't do the full 54 days because they're like, oh, half of this happened, 27 days happened. It doesn't happen. Or like they just get frustrated. And this 27 days, I was like, please, I'm praying for his healing. I'm praying for his healing. How selfless is this? I'm praying for his healing. It's not even about me. Well, halfway through, I'm driving home from a swing dance because during this time I got into swing dancing and I made friends, and I was just living for every Friday night dance and then going out late for dinner and then Saturday meeting up in the park for a social.
Community.
And also raising like the energy around it was such good energy. And I realized my prayer was selfish, right? Because you can't hide from your true intentions. Like you can't hide from your true fears. I was praying for him so that we could get back together. But in this moment, and this was past the 27-day mark, so nothing had happened. And in this moment, I said, oh, I actually wanted to get back together with him because I didn't have friends. I didn't have community. I'm lonely. You know, I had my best friend, but she was in a different stage of life. And I go, I wanted to be with him because I wanted that routine. I wanted to be like, here's your friends, here's your family, here's our patterns, here's where we're going every 2 weeks. And again, this moment hit me because I was driving back and I said, I wouldn't move to Texas to be with him if I had to give up these friends and this life.
This is why building a life of your own is so important.
Yeah. And then I think it was like day 54, day 55, I ended up meeting my husband on a speed date. And
you got the outcome.
But I tell him all the time, I go, if I had not done that prayer, if I had met you 3 or 4 weeks beforehand, I go, this wouldn't have been a relationship. It didn't matter how good you were. It didn't matter how, I go, because I hadn't healed. I was still attached to my ex and looking for that security to get back with my ex. Now, don't get it twisted. When you get into a healthy relationship, there are things that come up. There are things that come up from when I was like 19, 20.
Do. Yep.
You know, the guy who broke up with me because I wasn't Jewish, and I was like, hey, you knew from the very beginning, and on our first date, I asked you if this bothered you, and like 4 months later, you break up with me. And also, he didn't tell me took me 10 years to find that one out. But you know, it's those things that.
Say, The most ironic thing about this entire story is that the toxic masculinity version of religion is what got you stuck in that never-ending loop of trying to forgive him and trying to get him back, and all the things that religious programming that has conditioned us to, of being the selfless woman and our love can heal anything.
Yeah.
And what really saved you was true divinity, true connection directly to source within your own self, within your own body.
Yeah. And I think you bring up such a great point. I think that when I look at where faith and religion and source comes to play, because I mean, I do think that they're interchangeable depending on who you're talking to.
Agreed.
Where the grace that I have to have for myself, which by the way, my bakery was called Grace and Grain for that reason when I started selling my sourdough at markets.
First of all, we missed that whole point. You started the sourdough. I didn't know you turned it into a whole company. Of course,
well, the sourdough was bringing my femininity, and then I was like, I'm gonna do this.
You actually took it to the market, and you actually
but I wanted to share my story. I wanted to share the story not of what my ex did, but I wanted to share the story of when I asked God for mercy to end this relationship. My prayer was answered, and that I have found grace in myself because I needed to forgive myself. I need to give myself grace for being a smart girl, for going through other bad relationships or relationships that didn't serve me, and for staying so long in that old one. So that's why I named it Grace and Grain, because I wanted to share that story with whoever wanted sourdough bread. And everyone's like, sourdough bread? Sign me up.
Yeah.
But when it comes to religion,
can I still get it? Can I order that?
I'll do a new starter. I'll do a new starter. So next time I'm in New York, I'll bring you some sourdough. When I think about the religion, I think that the love and forgiveness and the mercy has to come from source. And I know that the relationship could have gone a completely different way had I not done what I said I would do after the dream, which was I washed my hands kind of clean of it. And I was never truly nasty. I could have been a lot meaner, and I could have been a lot more blowing up his spot. And I never, but even when I told his family, I said, hey, I want you to know that we broke up. I want you to know that we're breaking up because there's multiple instances of cheating. And I'm telling you this because I know that when you ask why we broke up, he's not going to tell you the truth. And I think it's really important that he tells you the truth, because him and this pattern, it's not like he was doing it because he was a womanizer. He was doing it because of his shadow side.
Of course. But again, like, that can also keep empaths stuck in relationships too, where it's like, oh, I understand why he is doing this. I understand why he's so damaged. His parents, his past, his traumas.
Yeah. But that's why I also tried to keep it above the belt, per se, because I was like, whatever I do is either going to make it worse or not. And in the end, I did want him to seek help. I did want him to conquer that shadow side. I did want him to be in a better place. I'm the friend in the group that everyone hates, because when they're like, oh yeah, did you see like one of my friends was like, oh, I went to go visit my high school boyfriend when we were in college, and he was getting close with this one girl. And then after we broke up, they ended up dating. And then I was like, well, where are they now? Like over 10 years later. Do you know that he ended up marrying her and having 2 kids? And I'm like, well, aren't you glad
for them? Yeah.
Like, aren't you at least glad that they, or like someone breaks up with me and I see who their new girlfriend is, and I'm like, could you have gotten someone better? Like, I'm the one who's angry that you didn't get someone better.
You deserve so much more.
No, I'm just like, if you're gonna do it, like, I want you to have someone great. And I go, I get it. Like, I'm more hurt that my ex didn't marry the person that he cheated on me with, because then I would have been like, this sucked, but obviously there was something that was tying them together.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like, when it comes to the toxicity of religion, when we interchange religion and source, it's the same, right? Like I could have looked
Agreed.
at my ex and been like, oh, look at all these synchronicities, look at all these patterns, look at all this stuff, and also stayed in that relationship using that. So
Mm.
I think that anyone who's in that relationship and is looking to break those boundaries, they need to go back into their body. This is really what you work on. When I started praying this rosary, and I was sobbing for like the first 3, maybe 4 weeks, maybe more, like sobbing during the whole thing, I knew that I was on a right path because I was releasing something.
That's energetic alignment.
Yeah,
That is
versus
the work. Yeah.
and
Instead
like
of just
entering.
affirmations every day and,
Yeah,
trying to talk yourself out of it, you have to let the body grieve fully all the times that you self-abandoned and you neglected yourself and you wanted to be chosen by everyone and their moms except the one entity waiting to choose you, which is God. And when you go fully to God and fully surrender all your egoic wants and needs up to this higher power, no matter your religion, no matter your background, no matter what you believe in, to this higher power fully.
when you realize, so if you're religious, I think that there's that moment where, and other people have said this, and it was a big thing for me, where I go, God is enough. God is enough. Like if who I am, if the only person who ever fully loves me for who I am is God, like one, that's enough, and that's
Julianna,
comforting.
that is wholeness.
Yeah. And I had to go through, I'm 35, so I had to go through 33 years of on the self-love journey. And
Yeah.
like I said, like steps and pivots and steps and
Yeah.
pivots and steps and pivots. And like even now being married, I mean, I'm like, hey, I don't do divorce, so there's only death. So if you want out, like,
You
I
either
don't
kill me or I
know.
kill you. Yeah.
Like I don't know how to get out of this one. But even then it's very much like and you're a perfect example of this. When we first moved to Maryland, I had a really tough time with the adjustment because we're out in the middle of nowhere. And my husband said to me, like, take the cats and go to Florida, take the cats and go to your mom. Like, he's like, I love you enough that this distance is not gonna kill us.
Yeah.
It's gonna be uncomfortable, but
But it's
it's not going to
healthy.
kill us, and it's not going to
And we have to tend to
destroy
ourselves,
us.
and our happiness is our responsibility. And imagine if you were too codependent of like, oh, if I go, it may, your past can come up of like, oh, what if he cheats on me again? Or what if you know what I mean? Like you have a history of that. So of course it's only natural for your mind to go there. And then you stay in a controlling environment instead of trusting that you have healed and now you can believe in the power of love to be a foundation of safety and security,
Yeah,
stability.
yeah. My ex also had one of those screen protectors on his phone, so he couldn't see the text
You
messages
know
when we
it's a
sat
cheat
next to
as
each
soon
other.
as you have a screen protector.
Um, and he had Snapchat, but
Another
my
telltale sign.
husband gave me his cell phone password on our fourth date.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
was I was like, oh,
same.
you got a text, and he was like, here's my password. Read the text
Yeah.
message. What?
And that's, yes. Yes. Like
I
there's
just gave
signs,
him my
guys. There's
Amazon
always
password. I just
signs.
gave him my Amazon password. He's like, we've
That's a
been
big
married
step
2
too.
months. Can I have the password to the Amazon account because you have Prime? It's like, I guess.
I guess. Just don't look at my history. Don't look at all the books I'm freaking ordering. All my clothes.
Yeah.
Juliana, what a testimony. Damn.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing
Well,
your
thank
story
you.
so openly and vulnerably and honestly. And the amount of women that are going to get so much strength and courage from your story just listening to this and feeling like it's so okay to give it up and surrender it all to God, and you don't have to carry this shame all on your own, and you can go back and not feel guilty for that and learn and grow and do it on your own time. And there's no rush and there's no linear path to getting out of something that's not in alignment with you. And then the success on the other side of it all, a boring, stable, gorgeous
3
marriage.
cats.
The best. Thank you so much. How can my
Thank you
audience
for
find
having
you?
me.
How can they work with Digital Darling? How can they use technology as self-care?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Digital Darling Jewels. We also have the website digitaldarling.ai, and you can find the society on School under the Digital Darling Society. So I'd
Which
love
I am
to
so joining. I'm running to it. So
yeah,
excited.
I'd love to hear from people. And like I said, I'm always looking for inspiration on how we can use tech as self-care and to really live our best life by letting the technology take the grunt work.
Yes, so we can enjoy our tea in nature and make our sourdough and not be locked to a freaking screen all day long. Again, thank you so much.
Yeah,
and
thanks.
guys, I'll see you guys next week.